Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and today I am doing a best races for Barbarians video. The things I'm looking for when talking about the best the best race to be as a Barbarian, we need to know that Constitution and Strength are the most important, whereas Dex is also very important. Some sort of natural armor could be helpful as well, depending on what type of Barbarian build you are looking for. Now, the overall goal with this video is to not look at RP, but to look at mechanics itself. Let's get into the first race. First race we got is Dragonborns. Dragonborns get a +2 to strength and a +1 to charisma, which can be very helpful if you're not trying to, whether you're trying to build a barbarian with a dumb stats charisma and you only want that +1, or if you want to really reach a new level of play where your barbarian has a very high charisma. With Draconic Ancestry and Dragon's Breath, I think this could be a very, very interesting build. It's also a favorite of one of my D&D groups. Next up on the list, we got Dwarves. Now, Dwarves get a +2 to Constitution for all of them. They all get Dark Vision to 60 feet. They get Dwarven Resilience, which is resistance to poison damage, as well as advantage on saving throws against being poisoned. They have Dwarven Combat Training, which gives them more weapon proficiencies. They have Stone Cunning, which gives them advantage on intelligence checks used to understand stonework. And then dwarves have a breakdown into sub-races, which are Mountain Dwarf, which get a +2 bonus to strength, and Dwarven Armor Training. Hill Dwarfs get a +1 to wisdom, as well as Dwarven Toughness, and then Dwarven Toughness is an extra hit point per level, which I think is huge. I think it's a huge pick for dwarves. And I think it really pushes dwarves, especially hill dwarves, into the barbarian mix. Next up, we have the most quintessential barbarian race in the player's handbook, which is the half-orc. They get a +2 to strength and a +1 to constitution, as well as dark vision of 60 feet and menacing, which gives them proficiency in the intimidation skill. They also have relentless endurance, which is basically like a free death ward that they can use once per day. This relentless endurance basically means that when they drop to 0 hit points, they can just get so angry that they stay up at 1. They also have savage attacks, which means that they can roll an extra damage die when they hit with a critical hit, which stacks on top of the brutal critical that barbarians already get. So this means that your half-orc barbarian can do a lot of damage and stay alive for very long. Next up on the list, guys, we got humans. Now, I know what most people are going to be saying. Humans, it's boring, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But hear me out. Humans have a +1 to every stat and an extra language, which isn't that great in the grand scheme of things, but we got to talk about variant human as well. They have a +1 to 2 stats, as well as a feature, an extra language, a tool proficiency, and an extra skill proficiency. And I think this is massive in the barbarian game, being that your barbarian could be more than a barbarian, and your barbarian could be further. Get the tough feat at first level and get an extra 2 hit points per level, which would be huge. Polearm Master, huge. Anything of the sort would be massive for your barbarian. Next up on the list, we have Janasi, the descendants of the genie, or the Jinn. All Janasis get a +2 to Constitution, being that they are elemental genies. But then the Janasi can be broken down into 4 different sub-races, which would be the air, the earth, the fire, and the water Janasis. The air Janasi gets a +1 to its dexterity score, as well as unending breath, which means they can hold their breath forever. They have mingle with the wind, which means they can cast levitate on themselves once without a spell slot, and it requires no material components. They can do it once per long rest. Next up, we got Earth Janasi. They have a strength score that increases by 1. They also have Earth Walk, which means they can move across difficult terrain made by earth or stone without expending extra movement. They also have Merge with Stone, which means they can cast Pass Without a Trace once using this trait, which I think is huge because I love Pass Without a Trace. It's basically that they merge into the ground and they just slide across the ground. Fire Janasi. They have an intelligence score that increases by 1. They have Dark Vision that can see in dim light within 60 feet. Fire resistance to fire damage, of course, and they have Reach to the Blaze. They know the produce flame cantrip, and they also know at 3rd level how to cast Burning Hands at a 1st level without expanding a spell slot once per long rest. Next up, we got Water Genasi. Their wisdom score increases by 1. They have acid resistance, as well as amphibious. They can breathe both air and water. They have a swimming speed of 30 feet, and they also have Call to the Wave, which means they know Shape Water as a cantrip, and when they reach 3rd level, they can cast Create or Destroy Water as a 2nd level spell without using a spell slot, and they regain the ability to cast it when they finish a long rest. I think that overall Janasis have a really good pick for Barbarians with a lot of different flavoring options depending on what you want your Barbarian to be, what your campaign setting is going to be, what your campaign is going to be, depending on also who you are playing with and what they are playing. Next up, we got another fan favorite. It is the Goliath. The Goliath gets a +2 to Strength and a +1 to Constitution. It is a natural athlete, so it already gets proficiency in the athletic skill. It has Stone's Endurance, which means that basically once per long rest, or once per day, I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but they essentially can roll a d10, add their their Constitution modifier, and shave that damage off of an attack that they receive. They also have Powerful Build, which means that they have an increased carrying capacity, push, pull, and drag capacity. They also have Mountain Born, which means they cannot be affected by cold climates, which is amazing. They also can't be affected by altitude as well, depending on how you're playing your D&D game, if those are factors. And of course, with the success of Critical Role and Grog in the first campaign, Goliaths have been a Barbarian staple for as long as Volos and Critical Role and everything like that has been a factor. Next up, we have the teddy bears that could kill you, the Bugbears. These guys have a +2 to Strength and a +1 to Dexterity. They also have Dark Vision of 60 feet. They are long-limbed, which means they have a natural reach of 10 feet. But if you are playing a Barbarian that uses a halberd or another sort of polearm weapon, your reach is 15 feet, which is massive. It is a massive reach, which means you can literally destroy any DM's chance of getting within close range of you, especially if you pick up Sentinel. But you also have Powerful Build. Powerful Build essentially means that it's the same thing as Goliath's with Powerful Build. They have Sneaky, you get advantage, you get proficiency with Stealth, and you have Surprise Attacks, so you have an extra you get an extra 2d6 damage on anytime you surprise an enemy with an attack. So if you're playing this Barbarian, be sneaky, my friends. Next up, we have the Hobgoblin, which gives a +2 to your Constitution score and a +1 to your Intelligence score. Hobgoblins, they basically have the same walking speed and everything like that. They get Dark Vision of 60 feet. They have Martial Training, so they have proficient in 2 martial weapons of your choice, and with light armor. Saving Face, they don't like to show weakness, and they can essentially gain a bonus to a saving throw if they fail it or they miss with an attack roll equal to the amount of allies that they can see within 30 feet of them. Maximum bonus of +5. And once they use this trait, they can't use it again until they finish a short or long rest. And I think that Hobgoblins are a surprise pick, and I think that a lot of people are shocked that I have them on this list, but I think that they can be amazing Barbarians and amazing Wizards, as a matter of fact. Next up, we have Lizardfolk. Now, Lizardfolk get a +2 to Constitution and a +1 to Wisdom. They have a Bite attack, which does 1d6 damage plus their Strength mod. They also have Cunning Artisan, which means they can basically make stuff out of the bones of their dead enemies, which is really cool. They can hold their breath for up to an hour. They have Hunter's Lore, which gives them, I believe, advantage on figuring out things about different animals and stuff like that. They have a Natural Armor, which I believe is a 12 plus their Dex mod. Maybe it's a 13. I can't remember off the top of my head. They also have Hungry Jaws, which basically means that you can use their bonus action to make a bite attack and then gain temp hit points equal to the bite attack, equal to the amount of damage they deal to their foe. And last but certainly not least on this list, we have the Normal Orc. Normal Orcs get a +2 to Strength and a +1 to Constitution, as well as a -2 to Intelligence. Which, I mean, if you're willing to take the debuff, go for it. They have Dark Vision, which is 60 feet. They have Aggressive, which means as a bonus action, after slaying an enemy, they can use half their movement to run up to another enemy and make an attack. They also have Menacing, which means that they have proficiency in intimidation checks, as well as Powerful Build, which we've discussed with Goliaths and Bugbears. I think Orcs are a very interesting choice. I'm not a huge fan of the debuff, but that, just mechanically speaking, I love debuffs in roleplay scenarios or other scenarios. And I think that overall, Orcs provide a very, very contending pool. And I think that a lot of people like Orcs, but they end up going with the half-orc because of that debuff. Alrighty, and we've come to the point where we're making our honorable mentions. So these are ones that I think could be very good if used in the right setting. Everything else is right, and they do offer very good options. Of course, this video is my opinion. So let's get into these honorable mentions. First off, in the honorable mentions, we have regular old humans. Humans are just decent at everything, honestly, and I think that if you don't consider a human, you're doing it simply because you're like, oh, they're boring. I want to make sure I have plenty of class features and everything like that. I'm not. This is not variant humans. This is just regular humans that get +1 to every stat and an extra language. We also have orcs. The one thing that really keeps us from being in the top 3 is the penalty to intelligence. But honestly, I think this race would make an amazing barbarian, and I have made barbarians that are orcs. Last of the honorable mentions are both dwarves. Well, for the mountain dwarf, it has a +2 to strength and a +2 to constitution. The thing that, which I think is amazing, and the thing that pushes the hill dwarf above some of the other classes is that dwarven toughness, that +1 HP at every, like, per level of play. And I think that the hill dwarf is an amazing barbarian. I've had a friend that has played a hill dwarf barbarian, and he really enjoyed it, and I think I might in the future as well. So guys, with all that being said, this brings us to the final part of this video, which is the top 3 races for playing barbarians. First off, we got variant humans. Now, the reason why variant humans take the bronze medal is because of the ability to pick that feature at first level, as well as the extra skill proficiency. Honestly, that extra feat is just so nice. You can use it to pick up mobile, you can use it to pick up different other feats that would make better sense for your barbarian. You can make your barbarian more specialized, you can make him more broad, you can pick up a magic initiate feat. You know, you can do what you do with a feat. And I think that feats are a big part of the game. This is, of course, being that your DM allows feats. Next up, we have the half-orc. This class combines the benefits of a human and the benefits of an orc. Honestly, there's no reason why this shouldn't be in the top 3. Relentless Endurance is also just amazing. The ability to drop down to 0 and come back up at 1 is just amazing for any martial class / Gish class. Now, and of course, Gish being part caster, part fighter. By the way, these top 2 could be switched depending on the scenario that you're in, but for me, number 1, we all kind of expected it, is the Goliath taking the gold medal. And it's no surprise, the Goliath, the natural athlete, it's just an amazing racial feature. The ability to have athletics proficiency right off the bat is great, as well as Stone's Endurance is a fun little ability. It doesn't stack very well, but I mean, honestly, those first 3 levels of play when you're basically surviving just makes Goliaths more hardy and more able to survive those higher through those lower levels of play to get to those higher echelons of play, and to be able to show off the more amazing barbarian features that come alive. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will be seeing you in the next one.